I did know her because she ran in the same circles. We spoke. We were acquaintances and pretty much almost friends. I actually did some work for her, photographing her art, and she curated me into one of a show, I believe, at one time.
I was on the board of Artists in Real Time with her, and I'd known her before as an artist. Actually, as she was a writer that I knew her as, because she had critiqued some of my work and other people's work throughout the year.
I've known Pat for a very long time. When I've been here for 26 years, and she was one of the first people I met. We knew each other through different venues, Kingswood, Oxford, where she works, and of course she wrote for Art in New England, and then her work with Open Studio. I mean, I know I'm forgetting lots because she was a very, very involved, brilliant woman who was a terrific artist herself, and just a very thoughtful, intelligent individual, and it came through her writing. But I would venture to say the thing that most of us remember about Pat is her smile and her humor.
The first time I ever met Pat Rosoff is when she was an art critic for The Advocate, and she wrote about a show that I had, and that was many, 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 many years ago. Completely different work. So I knew her for a very long time, and she was very involved with Hartford Open Studios and with the entire art community, and we miss her very, very much. Pat wrote for The Advocate, and it was one of the first or second solo shows that I had in Hartford, I think, that she did a review of. And so I was very nervous about it, of course, right? Because I was young and I maybe wasn't really sure of everything that I was doing or why I was doing what I was doing. And she was just very insightful and smart about my work. I enjoyed meeting her.
She reviewed my work a couple times for a couple of shows about 15 years ago or so. And I loved her work as well. So yeah, it was good. She described my work as having swashbuckling brushstrokes. And I always loved that. I always remember that comment. It was great fun.
Pat Rosoff was definitely a friend and a major person in the local art world. And beyond, not just the local art world. It was a pleasure to be associated with her and be connected to her and all the things she was connected to. And it brought a presence and awareness of the arts to the area that, like I say, it hasn't been replaced yet. I don't know how it will be. I was actually a student of Pat's her very first year teaching at Kingswood Oxford School. And I was only at Kingswood Oxford for 2 years and then I left. But I believe it was 1975. And I was in 8th grade, and she came in and became my English teacher. And I loved her. She was great. It was awesome. And I believe she was also teaching art at the time. But all I remember is being out at recess when I knew she was teaching art. And I don't think a lot of the guys were stopping everything to go into her class. Earlier this year, I was working on this painting back here, right here in the studio against the wall over here where I paint. And I guess I had my iPad next to me and I was receiving emails at very least. And an email from Cynthia Boulong came in telling me that Pat had died earlier that day. And it was not public news yet. And she was devastated, of course. And she was busy, everyone was scrambling because it was going to leave such a hole that had to be filled, and no one knew how to do that, that everybody felt frantic.
She was phenomenal. One son still works at Kingswood in the athletic department. One of my other sons went there, but I've known her through the art community. But as a teacher, she was phenomenal. She was an unbelievable artist, and anyone that can turn on a totally disinterested 16-year-old to art history was my younger son, who played every sport and could have cared less about everything else. She made it exciting. She was bursting with enthusiasm, and you saw it in her work, through the colors, through the textures, and it was a huge loss for the whole area. She was a phenomenal person, really great.
I knew Patricia peripherally. She very influential as a critic within the city. Unfortunate loss.
Patricia was very fond of my box structures that employed the photography. I don't have any here as an example, but she had given me a couple prizes in shows around Greater Hartford when she was the juror, and she ended up buying two of them of a series I'm doing, 2 or 3 of them. And I thought that was really sweet of her. And she was just very supportive of what I do, and I admired her a lot. I admired her as a writer, and the book she had published about a year and a half ago, a view on contemporary art, and she was a very talented painter, a very wonderful abstract painter. And I was in a couple group shows with her, and we were both showing our respective works. And she was she was very encouraging. She was very encouraging to artists, and I can imagine as a teacher she was wonderful. I never had her as a teacher, obviously, but I just know there was such an outpouring of her students and former students when she had passed last March, but she's left a legacy, with her art and her students, and around Greater Hartford. She left a mark. I call Patricia Rosoff my friend, and when I would see her out here and there, she was just a really sweet person on top of a really wonderful artist, and so we kind of have a friendship, a camaraderie as artists in the Hartford art circles.
Yeah, she was a great lady, a really good artist, a very, very good artist, and a very good writer, and well-rounded. She graduated from RISD and came to Hartford with her husband, I think, who was an architect. And she just had a joy for being around art and artists, and she loved the participation in the Open Studio Weekend every year. And I loved seeing her when I would go visit some of the other studios. And I liked her work for its vibrant colors, abstraction, and texture. And I just liked her. She wrote about my shows here over the years, and I sat in on some of her panel discussions. She was on a panel when Carl Andre came to Hartford after 25 years when he did his Stonefield sculpture. I was there when he just finished it. I actually watched him make the Stonefield sculpture.
In the artistic community.
Oh, she was very important. And, she participated in some very big panel discussions when big artists were in town. And she also, I would see her at all the openings and events. She just took part, and she was a joy to see at these. She liked to talk to people and enjoyed looking at people's art and writing about it. It's great. I miss her.